Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We appreciate you taking time with us. My name is Sherry Sullivan, and I'm with the AWS marketing team here in Seattle. I'm pleased to host this webinar today where you'll hear from AWS and Full360, one of our advanced consulting partners. They'll share their experience on managing big data on AWS Cloud. Let's get started with just a couple of housekeeping items. This webinar will last approximately 1 hour. We've muted your lines. However, we do invite you to add any questions into the Q&A dialog box in your browser. We'll take time at the end of this webinar for Q&A. And I'd like to remind you that this webinar is being recorded today. You'll receive a link to the recording at the close of this session. And in addition, we invite you to check out our AWS channels where we'll post the content on SlideShare as well as the AWS YouTube channel. Today's session begins with Miles Wards, our solution architect with AWS, and Miles will provide you with an overview of high-performance computing solutions, followed by Larry Hill, who's a Director of Business Development with Full360. Larry will provide an overview of data warehousing with some exciting analytics and BI tools running on AWS, as well as a customer use case. We'll wrap up with a demo by Jeremy Winters, a lead architect with Full360. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to you, Miles.
Jerry, thanks a bunch. And thank you, everyone, for attending this webinar. We're excited about high-performance computing workloads on Amazon Web Services and to be partnered with Full360 to be able to showcase their solution. We have a lot of customers that, for whom their look at high-performance computing in the cloud is their first look at the cloud. And we think that a lot of different market spaces have already learned, but there are plenty of folks that are new to what AWS has done and what we've built. Cloud computing is very different than standard on-premises physical infrastructure. You don't have any of the upfront capital expenses. You really pay exactly for what it is that you use. And those payments, because they operate in the operational expenditure budget, tend to be very low cost and very, very simple to deploy. We've made it so that all of this is self-service. So there's nothing that gets in your way to deploy an infrastructure that can grow and scale to the biggest computational challenges that you have, and then when you're done, turn right off so you stop paying for what you don't need. That flexibility and ease of use drives, for a lot of our customers, pretty incredible agility. They're able to change and react to their market space and to the challenges of their business rather than having the constraints of infrastructure force them to solve problems in maybe less efficient ways. That value proposition's been heard loud and clear by hundreds of thousands of customers. AWS is the clear market leader. There's no confusion that this is the big and best place to run large-scale infrastructures in the cloud. From enterprise customers like Shell, startups like Zynga and federal government resources, many different verticals and application platforms are all deployed on top of AWS. And it's not just the customers that vote. Certainly the analyst community has their say as well. We're that one. It's pretty easy to find us in the upper right-hand corner. Happy to announce that this has just been updated, and I'll give you a hint. The little dot moves further up and to the right. So this is a place where you can make a confident choice that our infrastructure and our service is the one that not only the bulk of customers, but the credentialed analysts who really dig in and look at this space think that we're doing it the best. There are a lot of reasons for that. Probably one of the important reasons there is this very complete stack of services and infrastructure that allow you to build solutions from the bottom to the top. So we have the distribution of regions across the globe, availability zones within those regions, and edge locations for caching and replication that allow you to move the compute to the data so that you can most efficiently process and most efficiently serve results to customers. We've built compute and storage and database and networking services that allow every one of the different ingredients of your application to be deployed on demand and to be paid for just for what you need. And then to make those systems easier to manage, easier to deploy, we've built service layers and application platforms that allow simple messaging and simple queues and development environments, all sorts of different tools that make access to these kinds of controls much easier, make the delivery of value on your data much faster. And then all of the controls and governance and management that allow you to bring these kinds of services into the enterprise, into the academic setting, and into government settings to be able to serve in a way that's controlled and managed and safe. So that stack, again, now distributed in 8 regions across the globe, really puts you at low latency to each of the different sort of major constituencies. We'll continue to add more regions over time. We're very far out in the lead in this area, and we really believe that we're far out in the lead from a security standpoint. So we've built, we believe, the most secure infrastructure of its type in the world. We're compliant with ISO 27001. We complete a quarterly SOC 1 toward our SSAE 16. We have full PCI DSS level 1 compliant, FISMA moderate compliance, all of those different certifications from financial services and from government services, from industry experts. Those are all built on a set of physical and logical controls that follow the best standards in the industry, again, from ISO 27001 or for the COBIT 9 level controls. So lots more details on that in our security section of the AWS website, so certainly encourage you to dig in there. We've also built a set of network controls, so it's not just the fact that every one of the pieces has been tested and we do a good job. It's also that there are the services and layers that allow you to build a network infrastructure so that even if you already have some of the data that you need in a data center you've already built, or you have applications that need to span from your facilities into ours, we have all of the network connections from Direct Connect or hardened VPNs and even dedicated instances that make that stuff easy to build. So high performance computing, let's dig into that workload in specific. We think HPC and AWS is a pretty incredible fit. In a lot of cases, I think a great quote is that, almost all of the time your cluster is too big, is underutilized, is not doing the good work until you actually need it, and at that point it's too small. On AWS, you have neither of those limitations. Will allow you to stop paying for instances when you're not using them, when you've got them all turned off, and to inversely be able to start up as many as you need to build really truly world-scale clusters that allow you to get the good work done. We think that allows you to get more science done, get more analysis done, get more work done in a way that's non-blocking for the real constrained resource that you have, which is the good engineers and the good analysts and the good developers that need better data for their solution. So we think that also really allows you to focus in on the work, on the calculations that you're trying to do, and not the technicals and mechanicals of deploying a bunch of computers, which is really relatively unrelated from the value of getting good analysis done. So a couple of patterns there that we think are pretty important. If you think about the work of doing big data, of doing large-scale analysis on information, a lot of that can be broken down into the first part of collection and storage of that data. We have some best-in-the-world services for that, from S3, now a trillion object storage environment, designed to accommodate petabytes and petabytes of workload data, to the super high-performance DynamoDB environment built on fleets of solid-state drives, capable of hundreds of thousands of transactions a second on single tables. Those storage and management systems then connect to our compute system. So Elastic Compute Cloud, that's where you rent instances by the hour from us. We even have instances that have NVIDIA Tesla GPUs for accelerated GPU-based processing, and the Gartner evaluated best Elastic MapReduce environment. That's a Hadoop hosted environment. So once you've done the computation, you've built all the work, really that's just the second step. We have a lot of other services for exposing that information and serving it back to downstream analytics systems. Again, S3 is a web accessible storage tool, so really useful to be able to serve up answers, and lots of other tools for facilitating collaboration and integration for these kinds of workloads. So lots of different HPC workloads have already been deployed successfully on AWS. It's not just the sort of classic hard science problems, but this kind of work and this kind of pattern applies in media and entertainment. It applies in financial services. We have many customers in each of these different categories that are pushing the envelope to try and get valuable data back into their businesses and research efforts to make sure that they can push forward the state of the art. So a couple examples of that. Right when we announced the CC2 clusters, those are the cluster compute 8x large instances from AWS, we built a cluster out of those to achieve a 240 teraflop test run, which at that point put us at number 42 on the world top 500 supercomputing list. Now we're in 72nd because the world gets faster, but you can deploy that infrastructure on us on demand. It means that any of the projects that you're working literally have access to a top 500 supercomputer when they need it, and they don't pay for it when they don't need it. That's that kind of physical infrastructure is dozens of millions of dollars just to build, let alone manage and maintain over the course of the months and years that you'd use it. If you're building on top of ours, it's dollars an hour that you're deploying. So an example of that kind of scalability, here's a project, just watching the instance counts for a customer that was building some high performance workloads. They go from a management cluster, at less than 10 cores, just a couple of machines sort of keeping the lights on, and spike to 1,500 cores in less than a day, and then right back down to when they're done doing the analysis. That kind of flexibility doesn't come at additional cost on AWS. If anything, we're optimized for those kinds of workloads, and we think as we look into the big research and engineering departments inside of enterprises and scientific community and the educational community, that this is the rule and not the exception, that you get all of the hard work done of figuring out what question you want to ask, and then you kind of sit around and wait for an open slot on the cluster to be able to ask your question. With us, there's no waiting. If 4 of you want to ask 4 different questions at the same time, if you have independent analyses that need to get run, just start more than one cluster. We have plenty of capacity to be able to accommodate those kinds of spikes. And you get the benefit of faster deployments and better flexibility for all of those precious researchers and workers. So a couple of good examples of that. This is from Cyclopic Energy. They build wind farms, and they need to know and understand the pattern of wind movement in their fleets. And so they've used OpenFOAM, that's a CFD application, for doing wind flow analysis. This is sort of classic high performance computing stuff. They had on-premises physical infrastructure. They built themselves a little cluster and just found that they couldn't keep it either working all the time. They had maintenance and sort of internal issues, or they had kind of a significant overload of too much analysis to get done in a short period of time. So by moving on to a fleet of cluster compute instances that, again, they only pay for when they use, they're able to get 2 months worth of their normal simulations done in just 2 days. We worked with the National Taiwan University. They're doing cutting-edge cryptographic analysis. They're looking for SVP analysis for Euclidean lattices. That kind of digging that's cutting-edge research. They were able to do that on 100 GPU boards. That's renting 50 of our CG1 4XL instances that only costs $2,300 an hour, where in comparison, buying that stuff, again, is millions and millions of dollars of upfront capital expense, let alone the sort of management and maintenance. They're in spot number one. They've taken over the market, in research around this concept. We've also worked really closely with several folks in the pharmaceutical industry. Schrodinger's built, a computational drug analysis. On a single node, they were looking at an estimated computation time of 12 and a half years. By building a pretty massive cluster, 51,000 cores on top of us, they were able to chew through that work in just 3 hours. So that gives you an idea of the scale that we're able to achieve. 50,000 cores is just something that you deploy. It's not something that you spend 6 months planning and researching for. And we think that that transition is one that's ripe to revolutionize this industry. There's a lot of work that it takes to be able to get these kinds of results. We know it's not something that happens in 5 seconds, but it certainly is something that can happen in hours. And we know we've seen that together with our partners at Full360. They've built some pretty amazing things and have a clear demonstration today of one of those stacks, again built on Vertica and Jaspersoft as a package for high-performance data warehousing, which I think is a super, super critical part of the high-performance computing landscape. So with that, I really appreciate everybody paying attention to the Amazon side of the story. I'd like to hand it over to Larry, where they can take us even deeper into the specifics of a data warehousing workload on AWS.
Great, thanks, Miles. This is Larry Hill with Full360. Quick look at our sub-agenda here for the partner portion of the webinar today. We'll give you a little bit of an idea of who Full360 is, some of our offerings on the Amazon Web Services cloud, talk specifically about our data warehouse customers and some use cases there. And then we're going to give you a demonstration of a billion-row demo using the data warehouse stack there, and then come back and give you an idea of a little bit of the pricing, which may surprise you in terms of its affordability. So Full360 is a systems integrator. We're based in the New York area. Been in business for about 15 years now, focusing on primarily on what we like to call analytic data warehousing, which is the high end, not just reporting, but OLAP analysis. We originally got our start with Oracle's Hyperion Essbase multi-dimensional database, and have been building cubes and very, very complex analytic applications for 15 years now. So our skills run the gamut from simple reporting all the way through OLAP and KPIs, fairly complex analytics. Our clients have been about half of the top 10 global financial institutions over the years, and ranging right down to emerging e-commerce and software vendors. We were an inaugural partner with Amazon for systems integration in 2007. So since then, our focus has been on the intersection of data warehousing and the cloud. So our offerings are in two primary offerings on the Amazon cloud: Elastic BI, which is a cloud data warehouse, and Elastic PM, which is a cloud enterprise performance management application. Now we're going to focus primarily on Elastic BI today, which consists of the Vertica analytic database and Jaspersoft cloud BI tool. But we also, for any of you out there who might be Hyperion users, we also have the full Hyperion EPM stack, consisting of Essbase, planning, their financial management, and business intelligence tools and so forth. Won't be the subject of this webinar, but there will be contact information at the end of the webinar here today. If you have some questions around the Hyperion piece, I'd be happy to address them. So focusing in on the cloud data warehouse, which again we call Elastic BI, what we've done is combined best-of-breed applications. The Vertica analytic database, which is arguably the hottest database in the market today. It's the leader in the column store market, purchased last year by Hewlett-Packard and growing exponentially, in terms of number of implementations and clients. And then the Jaspersoft Business Intelligence Suite, which is the leader in open source business intelligence, and in this case, commercialized business intelligence. And what Full360 does is all of the integration, the automation, and the support around this entire stack. So we can go from delivering it on the Amazon cloud to you, and you self-serve, you manage it yourself, to a full managed service. And this stack actually won the SIAA CODI Award in 2010 for Best Cloud Infrastructure Platform. So it's been recognized internationally as a leading edge, what we like to call a platform as a service. So talking specifically the core, really the heart of the Elastic BI and the engine for high-performance computing is the Vertica analytic database. As I mentioned before, it's a columnar database. If you're not familiar with that, it simply it sort of turns relational databases on their end and accesses data by column rather than by row. And what that allows it to do is be more selective. You know, a typical report might include 10 or 15 data elements. Well, that's only 10 or 15 columns out of what might be 100 or 200 column-wide fact table. So Vertica and column databases in general only do a disk seek on those elements that are actually included in a report. So if that's 1/10 of the fact table, it's only doing 1/10 of the work to retrieve the data that a traditional database, a row-based database like SQL Server or Oracle might do. So that natively makes it 10 to 100 times faster. So it's really been optimized for analysis and reporting, and has linear scaling right up to the petabyte level. Very importantly, it's a SQL database. Many of the very fast databases out there today are NoSQL, which requires an entirely different implementation and leaves out all of the SQL-based query tools on the market, query and reporting tools. So Vertica is an ANSI 99 SQL-compatible database with a very extensive ecosystem of analytic tools, one of which Jaspersoft will be showing you today in the billion-row demo. Vertica has been architected to be massively parallel. The largest implementation I believe out there right now is Zynga, which has been getting a lot of press lately. They were, I believe, Vertica's first petabyte level customer, and are probably at about 1.5 petabytes and 300, or approaching 300 nodes today. So that's a database for the Zynga gaming system on Facebook that's growing by 3 terabytes per day. It's an absolutely massive database, and it's high-performance computing to do any kind of analysis on it. So Vertica also uses advanced compression to reduce the footprint. You have as much of as a 10-to-1 compression of data on disk. It's actually very easy to set up and use. It's a next-generation database. It came from Michael Stonebreaker, who some of you might recall is the inventor of Ingress. He went open source with it, and it became Postgres, and this was his next project was Vertica. So it was designed to be elastic, which makes it ideal for the cloud because it can grow and shrink as you might need it. And this is, as I mentioned, this is the heart of high performance computing for data warehousing on the cloud. A couple of quick facts. You saw earlier a Gartner Magic Quadrant. Personally, I've been in business for over 30 years, and I've never seen a Magic Quadrant where any one company listed on it was so close to the right-hand side in terms of breadth of vision. Essentially what that means is that Gartner can hardly think up any more features or functions that they think should be in a cloud than are already addressed by Amazon. Gartner also had an interesting comment in their hype cycle for big data this summer that column store architecture is going to be one of the 3 most transformational technologies in the next 5 years, simply because it makes query and reporting 50 to 1,000 times faster than it had been prior to the advent of column store. Vertica is the most successful column store vendor out there. They're widely acknowledged as the market leader in terms of performance, integration, analytics, and value. And Wikibon recently also named them as the largest pure-play big data vendor in the marketplace. So they are, with over 2,000 customers, there's a huge range of use cases that are implemented and running today on Vertica. across multiple industries. The cable providers and telcos were some of the earliest adopters of Vertica because they have massive amounts of data coming in from real-time networks. Their application and server traffics, traffic analysis, call detail records, which I'll speak about on a subsequent slide here. Their billing and so forth. So the telcos and cables were very early to jump onto Vertica. Utilities and energy, meter reading is one of the primary big data applications out there today in terms of the millions and millions of meters that energy utilities need to monitor and take great advantage in being able to monitor dynamically, very close to real time. Retailers managing huge inventories, shrinkage in price points, capturing fashion trends as they happen on the web as opposed to a month or two in arrears. Manufacturing has used Vertica to aggregate millions and millions of data points that are generated throughout the manufacturing process into a single view of an entire manufacturing concern. Financial services has used Vertica for tick stores, all of the market data that's being generated in terms of billions and billions of ticks per minute on the major markets. And they do time series analysis and risk management. And then the media and game companies, two of which are our clients, one of the main focuses with Vertica is to serve up the right ad at the right time and ensure increased click-through. And if any of you are interested in more detail on these, certainly give me a call sometime after the webinar here, because there's a rich level of information about the various companies that are doing these applications today. But one in particular that I'd like to speak to is one of the top 3 wireless companies in the marketplace doing call detail record analysis. And this analysis was actually able to add up to $60 million back to their bottom line annually. Because they were able to get into the details in payment disputes, and they had been doing this analysis on a more traditional relational database on Oracle. They were only able to store a week of data at a time, just because if you think of all the all of the calls that are being made on a weekly basis by one of the major wireless companies, just billions and billions and billions of records. So they were only able to store a week of data. Only two users were allowed to use it because there was 30-minute response time on a $700,000 on-premises cluster. When they put Vertica in, they were able to expand the data to 8 months of data with 100 users with 30-second response time on about $50,000 in industry standard servers, which I would mention would be an even lower price here if you were to use the Amazon cloud. So 32 times more data, 50 times more users, 60 times faster answers, and 1/14 of the hardware cost. And so you can see why the wireless companies are very enthusiastic about adopting Vertica. So we think that Vertica, as implemented in the cloud by our elastic BI stack, is an ideal architecture for big data analytics. It's able to process unstructured data. You can use Hadoop or Amazon's own Elastic MapReduce service to structure the data up to the point where it's appropriate for a relational database. It can take semi-structured and structured data, pull that straight in. As I mentioned before, Zynga is loading real time, 3 terabytes a day into their clusters. And you're also able to link to external sources like Dun & Bradstreet or Axiom for interactive web service level calls to data. Bring that all into Vertica. The SaaS analytical tool that many of you probably use can access Vertica directly. Within the Vertica platform, there are algorithms for SQL and analytic extensions, the R analytic language, user-defined extensions, and C++, as well as an access to a wide range of reporting and analysis tools. Pretty much anything that generates SQL can access the Vertica analytic database. So they've got over 2,000 customers at this point. You can see Comcast and Verizon Wireless and Sprint in there, among a whole range of large to small companies, AT&T Interactive as well. So Vertica is growing from the point of 2 years ago they had about 200 customers. They've grown by 10 times in the past few years, and in the past 2 years really, and their acquisition by HP as the crown jewel of its database strategy is a good indication of their market leadership. Now, what we're going to use today to show you our billion-row demo is the Jaspersoft Business Intelligence Suite. And I like to say it's the most widely used BI tool in the world that you've never heard of. They got their start in the open source world with over 16 million downloads, 175,000 deployments, and over 15,000 commercial customers now, which means paying, not open source customers. They do the full range of ad hoc reporting dashboards and OLAP, including pixel-perfect reports via their iReport tool, and they're 100% Java, so they're built for the web and ideal for the cloud and highly affordable. Typically, comparisons with the larger vendors like Cognos or Business Objects, you see them at about 25% of the total cost of ownership of those tools. And we make them, Full360, make them even more affordable by making it a monthly charge on the cloud without any large upfront licensing charges. So Jaspersoft provides easy and powerful BI, very sophisticated charting, integration here with the R language for data mining. You're able to do drag and drop dashboards, and you'll see a little bit later in the billion-row demo that will generate an ad hoc query on the fly and show you the performance of it. You're also able to do mashups for real-time updates on a portal or a website. One of the things we like the most about Jaspersoft is its flexibility. It's very easy to deploy either standalone or embedded in an ISV's application or an e-commerce site. Very easy to deploy in the cloud, especially if you use Full360 to implement that for you. Very easy to custom and extend. It's 100% web standards architecture, so it's Web 2.0. It's all Java. Completely independent presentation layer here, and very, very efficient operation on the web or from the cloud. So what Full360 does is all of the integration and support around this stack. We've got a highly optimized Just Enough OS Linux base so that the whole stack runs very quickly. We have done all of the automation and integration of the products via Opscode Chef. And we actually have Chef recipes that can run or that can deliver the entire stack to you in a matter of hours. Vertica plus Jaspersoft, or Vertica standalone, or Jaspersoft standalone. And then Full360, as part of our platform support, provides a single source of level 1, level 2, and usability support. We can hold your hand as you move into the cloud. If you're experienced with the cloud, we can give you best practices around it. I like to say that we can offer as much or as little in terms of services that come along with this platform as a service as you would like. So just talking about it, some of our clients so far, we got a call about a year and a half ago from one of the leading not-for-profit independent software vendors, that they had an extremely large, probably the world's largest association of retired persons, clamoring for an increased level of reporting and analytics. And we were able to turn around in just a few weeks a prototype that satisfied that very large association, and today has become under the covers an enhanced level of reporting and analytics for that software vendor's application. We also have the human resources department of a $5 billion healthcare provider. They're in the process of moving to Workday, which up on the cloud, which is a very popular HR solution these days, and have built an initial data warehouse and are expanding that for Workday as we speak. We have a social network retailer that is able to gather all of the campaign statistics for their celebrity curated products and do very quick analysis on how these one-month programs are running, which enables them to tune the campaigns for the next month around. We have a social network gaming vendor that asked us to do a straight replication of their MySQL data up into the cloud and into Vertica, which we've been able to do very efficiently and give them near real-time analysis capability on what's going on in their various networks. We even have a startup in the wireless data analytics business that's focusing on bring your own device analysis for various clients that have been able to give as to or on really unheard of levels of analysis prior to now to their clients who are moving into the very complex world of people owning their own iPhones and not sourcing them through the company, typically known as bring your own device. We also have a large international airline that I'll speak to in a little bit more detail. They're an Australia-based carrier, very strong, facing very strong competition from other Asian carriers here. So they have a more traditional relational data warehouse, but they were looking to build a fast analysis data store for a number of operational business issues, and have used our stack to enable mobile reporting for a wide range of their operational groups, and are also moving to enrich their frequent flyer data, massive amounts of frequent flyer data with third-party information to garner insights into their most important customers. So what this really boils down to, these various users are three primary use cases for Elastic BI. One is data marts for large enterprises, where there may be an enterprise data warehouse in place that's not perhaps fast enough or flexible enough to answer fast-moving business questions. So you can build departmental or divisional data warehouses or data marts off of an enterprise data warehouse, and create, as we're doing for the airline, an agile data store for fast analysis. It's also an ideal, very affordable data warehouse for small, medium businesses, startups, growth stage companies, next level, up to $100, $200 million companies that either haven't decided on a data warehouse standard or are finding that Microsoft SQL Server is becoming too expensive for them. You can move to the next generation of data warehouse here at a fraction of the cost of Microsoft. And independent software vendors and websites who are looking to embed Jaspersoft with very high performance for their clients delivered by Vertica, and move from very simple reporting, 10 or 20 fixed reports, to full-blown dashboards, analytics. Some of them are even charging extra for the value-added ad hoc analysis that you'll see in our demo here in just a few minutes. So speaking of the demo, this is a Vertica database, or data set, I should say. It's click data. We're running Vertica 6 on our own CentOS Linux image here on a H1 4XL Amazon instance that has 60 gig of RAM, 8 cores, 8 virtual cores, and 2 terabytes of solid-state disk. And we've divided the data set into a 10 million row demo, which is appropriate for the one part of the demo, the dashboards, that is, and then a billion row demo for the ad hoc query analysis. Now, we've also set this up as a typical implementation for one of our clients, where it's all within it's using the Amazon's virtual private cloud facility, which essentially is a cloud version of a virtual private network. It extends your own security out into the Amazon cloud. And there's two additional levels of security here: an SSH secure tunnel to secure the database from the internet, so that the internet or web access is only coming in through the Jasper server, which has yet another additional level of security built in. We can implement this with single sign-on capability with existing security arrangements. We can even take your own proprietary security and extend it out into the cloud. So if any of you have questions about that, and that is typically the first of 2 or 3 questions about the Amazon cloud referring to security, we'd be happy to discuss that with you. There's an excellent story. We'd be happy to take you through it. So at this point, we'll jump to our billion row demo with Jeremy Winters, who's a lead engineer here with Full360.
Hello, everybody. This is Jeremy Winters. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you in the demo here, is the actual console for Amazon Web Services. So I'm going to log into our Full360 account with my username and password. Now, the first thing that you run into is a request for an authentication code. That's because we have MFA, or multi-factor authentication, enabled for this account. A username and password is not enough to get into the Amazon Web Services console. I actually have a little authentication program running on my iPhone that gives me a different number every 10 seconds. So I'm going to enter this number in and sign in. So this prevents, someone from just stealing your laptop and being able to log in. They absolutely have to have the other authentication device to provide the code. So in the console is a quick overview that you're able to, go directly to the control panel for all of the various Amazon services, such as the MapReduce or the EC2 or the S3 storage. The console has been really nicely worked out with shortcuts to all the services at the top, and you can customize your own toolbar at the top, so this way the most used services for you are always available. I'm going to go directly to EC2, which is the platform or the service that we've built these instances on. EC2 is the Elastic Compute Cloud, which is the service of virtual servers in the Amazon cloud. When you get to the EC2 console dashboard, you have high-level information such as the number of running instances you currently have, elastic IPs, EBS volumes, etc. These are all, charge incurring services, so you have an idea of how much you're using at a given time. And it's also nice here you have service health alerts for all of the Amazon cloud regions that you're using, and currently everything is looking good. So I'm going to go directly to the instances, which are the virtual servers. We're going to find our demo servers by doing a quick filter. So here we have the Vertica server. If you click on it, you actually see all the statistics and information for the server. This is an HI1 4XL, which is one of the high-performance computing instances. And you have, all your basic information, IP addresses, the security groups associated with it, and all the general technical information that you need. There's also, the latest health checks that were run against the server, and some basic monitoring of CPU, disk I/O, and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is actually go to the info for the Jaspersoft server, just so I can get the IP address of the server. And we're going to actually go directly to the Jaspersoft application. Okay, so here we just have a simple splash page, but now we're going to actually get to the Jaspersoft login. Quick overview here, this is your login page. Jaspersoft is really big on customization, so I haven't customized anything because this is a demo, but all of this can be changed from the colors, presentation, logos, the content of this splash screen can all be 100% customized. I'm going to go ahead and log in. So the way I have it set up to log in is I'm logging in and seeing, the basic options for, where to start administering and running reports. But you can actually default users to go to a specific report or dashboard. I'm instead going to go to the repository, which gives you a hierarchy of all of the objects and reports, cubes, etc. that are stored on the server. And the first thing we're going to look at is a dashboard. So I built a very simple dashboard on the 10 million row clickstream data set. And the reason we use a 10 million row data set for a dashboard is you want dashboards to be super, super fast. So you can optimize your database for a billion rows or more to drive a dashboard. But generally, dashboards, you want them to be on a much smaller data set. This really, the dashboards just give you an idea of, the functionality and, the fact that I can show you pretty pictures with Jaspersoft, visualizations of your data, some really nice Flash-based reports. You can hover over and see the details for a specific data element. The data set that we're using is a generated fake clickstream data set. So, a fake weblog records about people clicking, on pages on the internet. So dashboards are pretty, but what I think is, the most valuable sort of use cases for these BI tools is the ability to have the daily users get to the data as quickly and efficiently as possible without having to learn, programming languages or, really advanced tools. So Jaspersoft excels in that, and that everything is really easy to learn and understand. So what we're going to do is build a couple ad hoc views on top of the big data set. So this is actually a clickstream data set as well, which has been a fake data set that's been generated, but this is the one that uses 1 billion rows of data. We chose 1 billion rows because it's a good example of a data set that becomes really difficult for traditional relational databases to handle for fast reporting. So we're going to go ahead and build a crosstab report. So over on the left, we have all of the dimensions of the cube that we've defined, as well as the measures associated with it. The first thing I like to do for this demo is filter for all months, and this is to ensure that all of the data comes through when I start pulling, start pivoting here. So let's look at the request count for all months in this data set. You'll see the number 1 billion. That's because there are 1 billion rows in this data set. Count directly correlates to the number of rows. So let's look at some, start breaking this down. Obviously, counting the rows in a database is not really too difficult, but let's actually start looking at the data. So let's break down this billion rows by browser type. So this is the browser type that the user was using when they clicked on the web page. We can also expand it into the version. Let's go and open this up. So it's important to note that this is not pre-aggregated data. These query results have not been stored. These are live queries on top of the billion row fact table. If I was to start inserting hundreds of thousands of records right now into Vertica, you would see those numbers rolling through in these reports. Again, let's go and add another dimension here. Let's look at operating system. And it breaks it out across the top. We get OS version in there. So then we've built a report that breaks out. Oh, let's open this up. Make sure we get that detail. So we're looking at for the users that were clicking on the web pages, exactly which browser on exactly which operating system they were using. So we have a basic the basics of a report. Let's go ahead and get it into Excel. So you just click up here, export as an Excel file. It takes a few seconds to render, and now we have the file. Open it up in Excel, and you have the report in the same basic format that you were looking at in the web page. Everything is actual numbers. Sometimes these report generating tools will do weird things, put strange formulas, make numbers as text, stuff like that. Jaspersoft doesn't do that. It's actually really what you would expect it to do when exporting a report into Excel. So we were throwing around, just looking at high-level views of this billion-row data set. But I want to show you another use case which is typical, which is to get down to the very low-level details starting at the top level. So we'll go ahead and clear out everything that we did here. Do the same thing that we did before, creating a filter for the month. And I'm just going to select a single month this time because we want to get down to some low-level details. Let's go ahead and pull the page data. So this is the domain. Oh, I'm sorry. First I have to pull the request count metric. And then I'm going to pull the data domain. So this is these are the web page domains that were clicked on. And we can go down to the subdomain level. So open these up, and we're looking at the the actual categories for these, as if they were shopping, for example, on Amazon. And we also have down to the actual HTML page that was clicked on, and this would be typical in a clickstream, parsed weblog data set. And these numbers are still a little big to drill through, so let's go ahead and add operating system across the top just to get a little lower level of detail. So when you're in this ad hoc view, it should be running, it takes just a second. There we go. So when you're in this ad hoc view, you'll see that all of these numbers actually have a hyperlink. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on this 803 right here. And this brings you directly through to a drill-through report, which gives you all the detail behind the number that you clicked on. So these are all the actual records from the fact table. And again, very easy to go ahead and export these into Excel. Now this one takes a few seconds longer because it is definitely more data. And then you open it up in Excel, and you have your data that you drilled through to. So the real, thing I'm trying to get across is that when you have, these large data sets, using a tool like Jaspersoft and Vertica, which have been optimized to work with each other. So Jaspersoft is actually aware that it's using Vertica, and it writes the SQL queries accordingly to utilize the speed features of Vertica. It really makes it so that you can focus on what you're trying to do with the data, which is actually analyze it and look at it, and you're not even really, you're not focused on the complexities of building a report. Here's your data, drag and drop, build a report, click through, you have the details that are in your database available to you very, very quickly. That's really all I wanted to show you guys, just how simple it is to use and how fast it is to use. And I'm going to go ahead and hand this off back to Larry Hill to wrap it up.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. And what we'll do is real quick here, just jump to a little bit of pricing, just to get you an idea. Not that one. Get you a little bit of an idea of what the magnitude of cost here is with the configuration we were just looking at. The demo configuration there was using a single standard Excel instance from Amazon. 4 cores, 24 gig of memory, cost 64 cents an hour on demand, a little under $3,000 if you do a 1-year commit. The Vertica cluster was using one high I/O quad XL instance, which is 8 cores equivalent, 60 gig of memory, 2 terabytes of solid state. This is the kind of processor you can pop up for $3.10 an hour on demand. A great peak processing instance, but even if you commit, for a year, if you take it for a year, it's about $1,160 per month over a year for an extremely powerful processor. Now, to add in the elastic BI options here, we Full360 offer Vertica for starting at $1,000 a month for the first 100 gigabytes available on Amazon. And then you can add 100 gigabyte increments for additional $500 per month. Jaspersoft, very affordable business intelligence. We can start at $3,500 a month for 2 server instances, capable of supporting upwards of 100 to 200 users. Combine the 2 of them, and we can go from about $4,000 a month for the combined Jaspersoft and Vertica, which of course is what we call elastic BI. And to support that on an entry level, not quite at the high performance computing level that we've seen in the demo today, but to get you started, a 4-node cluster using the same server above that we suggested, the one standard XL. If you use 4 of those, 1 for Jaspersoft and 3 for a Vertica cluster, on a 1-year commit, that's less than $500 a month. So you can see that you can get yourself into the high performance computing, data warehousing world pretty inexpensively, less than $5,000 a month, fully supported by Full360. So at this point, we'll take some questions. Thank you all for attending. I think we're going to switch back over to Sherry to moderate the questions and then give them to presenters as applicable. So thank you all this afternoon, and interested in hearing your questions.
Thank you, Larry and Jeremy and Miles, for a great presentation today. We do have time for a few questions, and I'd like to remind everyone that you have the ability to ask a question in your browser through the Q&A tool. So please do feel free to submit a question. We have a couple to start us off, and I'm going to direct this to you, Larry. Is it possible to get Vertica or Jaspersoft by itself on AWS?
Yes, because we've done the implementation here of our Amazon instances with Ops Code Chef that allows us to essentially parameterize and quick configure according to not just the product involved, which could be Jaspersoft standalone or Vertica standalone, but also to the server configuration that you're looking to use. So we can give you those individual applications without having to go to the entire Elastic BI stack according to what your needs might be.
Great, thank you. The next question, which is I think relevant to many folks on the call today, is how do I get started with Vertica or Jaspersoft? Can you give maybe an overview in terms of how folks get a test pilot in production?
Absolutely, yeah. It's very quick. I mean, if you have an Amazon account, we can provision Elastic BI down into your account in a matter of hours. Really, all you need is an Amazon account, which is connected to a credit card. You could even use your own personal Amazon account that you might have been buying merchandise over the years, but you would want to associate, I would think, a business credit card. Though we have had clients in the past who have really needed to get started quickly before the corporate machinery could work, and they put it on their own Visa, MasterCard, or actually we had a startup in Moscow, one of our first clients, put the whole thing on his American Express card. So very easy to get started with us. If you don't have an Amazon account, we can walk you through that. Take all of about 3 minutes, and literally give me a call this afternoon. We'll have you up and running tomorrow morning.
Great. That's a service for you. So I have time for one more question, and Miles, I'll direct this back to you. I understand AWS is a multi-tenant network. How does the impact cluster network performance?
Sure. So Amazon Web Services has really focused on the high-performance computing workload and built kind of a unique network, something that's not available in many other places, called the cluster compute network. So when you create EC2 instances of the CC1, CC2, and CG1 types, those instances are populated with 10 gigabits of full bisection, non-blocking, zero oversubscription networking. The non-blocking component comes from some unique design work that we've done around network implementation, and an important feature of that is a service called a placement group. So when you construct clusters on us, you actually get to name a group, and that group of instances then is they're right next to each other. They're co-resident in the same network space. Instances inside of a placement group exhibit 50 microseconds of latency point to point inside of the cluster, and that's for clusters of hundreds of nodes. So extraordinarily high performance networking, again, available to you at a couple of dollars an hour. That kind of network performance is just a native part of how cluster compute is built. So the concerns about kind of multi-tenancy and that kind of overlap or variable network performance, those things are really solved by the cluster compute network.
Great. Thank you, Miles. Well, that concludes today's webinar, and I would like to, again, thank Larry, Jeremy, and Miles for the great presentation today on how to manage your big data on AWS. I'd like to let you know, as an attendee, we'll send out a follow-up email with a link to this recording, And on behalf of Amazon Web Services and our presenters today, thank you for joining us to learn about managing your big data on Amazon Web Services. Thank you.